The gates slammed shut behind me, and for the first time in 7 years, the air no longer carried the scent of iron and sweat. Freedom, or something pretending to be freedom, hovered around me. I walked straight to the cemetery, clutching flowers like an offering of peace. Her grave should have been there, my wife, my ghost. I knelt, pressing the bouquet against the cold stone. My fingers traced her name, carved into silence, into absence. Then I saw her, a girl, the guard's daughter, half hidden behind the oak, her eyes too sharp for someone so young. I offered a faint smile and held out some candy. She approached slowly, as if the secret she carried was too heavy for her small shoulders. When she finally spoke, her whisper split the world in two. "Uncle, there's nobody there." Her hands shook, but her eyes did not. "Want me to tell you a secret?" In that moment, I felt the first crack tear through the coffin I had been forced to live inside. I stared at the empty patch of earth, no fresh soil, no wilted flowers, no trace of a grave ever dug. 7 years in, and I had clung to one belief, that she had died while I rotted, that my grief had been the currency I paid for my sins. But the girl's words cut deeper than any prison shank. No grave, no wife, no death. At first, denial rose. Perhaps the stone had been moved. Perhaps she'd been buried somewhere else. I wanted to believe the system had misplaced her body, just as it had misplaced my life. But the silence around me told a different story. Her absence wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. The girl's voice echoed inside my skull. There's nobody there. My wife hadn't died. She had vanished, and the world had let me believe otherwise. I didn't rage. Rage is messy. It gets you locked up again. Instead, I followed the faintest threads of her life. I scoured the courthouse, combed through records, found no trace of her death, no paperwork, no burial certificates. Then I tracked the paper trail she hadn't erased. Bank transactions, addresses, subtle identity changes almost invisible, but not quite. She had built a new life while I was caged. A life with someone else. Every detail I uncovered was another nail, another twist of the knife. At night, I replayed the last memory of her. The tears on her face as they dragged me away, her promise that she would wait. Lies. She hadn't buried me in her heart. She had buried me in the world, alive but forgotten. I told no one of my search. To the outside, I was just a man adjusting to freedom. Inside, I dissected every fragment of evidence with surgical precision. I didn't want justice. I wanted truth. And truth has a way of draining the guilty dry. I found her not in mourning, not in a grave, but in a quiet suburb with a new name, a new life. Children who weren't mine, a man's arm around her waist. The same man she had insisted was just a friend before my trial. My wife hadn't died. She had killed me, not with a weapon, but with silence. She let the world believe I was guilty. Let me rot behind bars while she built a paradise on my bones. I didn't confront her immediately. I watched. I studied the way she smiled when she thought no one from her past could see. In that stillness, I understood the full measure of her betrayal. I waited until the night her husband left town. She returned home to find me sitting at her kitchen table. Flowers, identical to the ones I had left at her supposed grave, rested between us. Her face went pale. She whispered my name like a curse. I slid a folder across the table. My notes, my evidence, proof I had uncovered every corner of her deception. 7 years, I said quietly. I mourned you for 7 years. She shattered instantly. Tears, apologies, frantic hands reaching for me. I didn't touch her. I leaned back, letting the silence devour her words. She knew then what I had become. Something colder, sharper than the man she remembered. My revenge wasn't violence. It was clarity. I had returned not to reclaim her, but to let her drown in the mirror of her own deeds. I left her on the kitchen floor, trembling, surrounded by the flowers meant for her grave. I didn't need to raise my voice. The weight of truth was heavier than any punishment I could invent. As I stepped into the night, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: freedom. Not the kind prison grants, but the freedom betrayal gives when it strips away illusion. She had buried me alive, but now I had dug myself out. I would never return to her grave, because she was the one already buried, alive, but entombed in her own lies. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Insight World for more gripping stories.